So how do we measure, my pen back, how do we measure all this food, all this beverage, and figure out how much calories, kilocalories it has? Well, we use this thing called calorimetry. And calorimetry is the measurement of heat energy. The amount of heat that the body expends when doing things, when consuming things, can be measured both directly and indirectly. The amount of heat that is given off from certain types of utilization of foods can be measured. How much energy do I have to put in to get food to evaporate? That's bomb calorimetry. We talked about that, I think, way earlier in the beginning of the semester. Right? So here we're looking at what we are doing as an individual. All right. Now, for the most part, all of this is already calculated and done. But understanding a little bit of how they came to some of these numbers that we see online is kind of important. Direct calorimetry is the amount of heat produced by someone, done in a specialized chamber, as you can kind of see right here. And we can measure the amount of heat given off by the individual. They could be sitting down, they could be standing up, they can be doing jumping jacks. So you can see how we can directly figure out by how much heat an individual gives off, how many calories they're burning. That's the direct method. It's pretty easy. Indirect, how much heat you produce by measuring the amount of oxygen consumed or the amount of carbon dioxide produced. So that's why you see this bubble over this lady's face here. Okay. You can figure out by either how much oxygen the individual consumes or how much CO2 the individual gives off and determine how much energy is being utilized. So we have two different methods, direct and indirect calorimetry. Direct, you see the actual physical heat coming off of the person. Well, you don't see it, but you measure it. For indirect, you're looking at oxygen and carbon dioxide consumption, which is the same thing we looked at when we looked at how we figure out how much energy is in foods. How much heat do we apply to food to get it to burn up? Direct bomb calorimetry. Or how much carbon dioxide or oxygen is giving off from the food? Indirect calorimetry. Indirect bomb calorimetry. So it's the same thing. Is it easy to walk around and live your life in, I was going to say live your life in a bubble, but right now, most of us do that anyway. So maybe that's kind of bad. But do we all live in a scientific chamber? Of course not. Can we all walk around with a space helmet? Again, holy crap. Right now, we probably do. Yes. This individual in 2020 would be walking around with this apparatus on her head. Ideally, no. So what else can we use to figure out how much energy we are doing with our activity levels? And we can do that with a heart rate monitor. You can do this with a Fitbit. You can do this with an Apple Watch. There are many different ways to do your heart rate, and with the heart rate monitor with the apparatus around the chest there, that is the most accurate method for figuring out heart rate, which determines energy output. But you can also just do it on your Fitbit or Apple Watch now. Some of the ways in which they measure oxygen levels within the blood with those little sensors on the underside are becoming a lot more sensitive. And so you can really get a good idea of oxygenation within the blood and get a very good indicator of both pulse and oxygen use, which is a great indicator of energy that you are expending when you are exercising. There are physical activity questionnaires, and for the most part, this is all asking about what you're doing. Now, this is going to be a much more medically focused type of thing. Um, it looks at the physical amount of time that you physically do the exercise or the activity, I guess I should say. Um, how fast you performing this activity, the intensity levels, and how far you went with this type of activity level. So there are components of a exercise program, and we'll get into some of the definitions of what is intense, because my intense is different from your intensity. So um, there is some vagueness to this, and I get it. There is a lot of error potentially because of that fact, but that all is basically what you are doing with your exercise. So there are a number of other physical activity questionnaires out there that you can do to get a much more accurate potential, accurate degree of how many true calories that you are expending. And it all goes with body weight. Um, if you have a lot of body mass, you're going to be burning more calories with your activity level compared to somebody who doesn't have a lot of body mass. They won't be exerting a lot of effort to move their thin little body.